closely, obviously, with the various. Sorry, I have to hold the mic. I talk a lot like this, like all good Egyptians, and that doesn't work with the mic, so I'll try to keep it close. So I'm just going to show you our presentation here, and if we have time, I would like to show you a demo of some of the solutions as well, to show you how it's being used. Perfect. Oh. Okay. Perfect. So the title of the talk today is a full skills ecosystem to power lifelong learning. That's what we're calling it. And so just quickly take you through an agenda. I'm just going to tell you one slide or two about Blue Drop, who we are as a company, what we believe in, what we've been doing in the last 10 years in particular, although the company is about 25 years old. A little bit about the new industrial revolution. Nothing new there. I think the speakers today were really excellent in sort of laying out the challenges that everybody in this room faces in dealing with the rapid pace of change. But just a couple of statistics that we think are relevant to our technology, how we've responded, and then I'm going to give you a couple of examples of the way that technology centers, less problems with training teachers and ensuring the consistency is there. So technology is part of the problem for sure, and I know we're all reeling with how to cope with it, but I think it's part of the solution and the opportunity to leapfrog. And then at the end, if we have time, I'll show you some demos of how the technology works. So I won't get into, Blue Drop has two lines of business. We are in the province of Canada that has icebergs. That's where the Titanic sank off our coast, which is not necessarily a good thing to brag about, but that's where we are. And I'll talk about our division, Blue Drop Learning Networks. This division has been about 8 years old and really about revolutionizing the way that systems deal with skills development in the workforce, not just for unemployed, but also for career learning. And it's really, we deal with governments and systems as our clients. So as Jean-Francois mentioned, we started in 1992 as a class project. I couldn't get a job as a mechanical engineering graduate, so the first person to get a job in 1992 was 6 months. So we started a company for fun, and it ended up working, so we're still here. In 2004, we really wanted to focus on learning technologies, about 200 people, headquartered on the far east coast of Canada. We actually started developing web learning back in 1996, which was really early. We did that for Pfizer and a drug company. So we were one of the first companies to do that. And just a little bit of, that's our headquarters. So we have a couple of offices, obviously, across Canada and some people in other countries as well. But that's what our building looks like, and that's where we're based. So about maybe 10 years ago, we had global leaders. We were doing a lot of work for corporations. So we were working with Pfizer, Microsoft, Chevron, ExxonMobil, Target, Subway. We really were doing a lot of learning development for companies. A few years ago, I told my board, maybe about 8 years ago, we're going to fire all these clients because we really wanted to focus on where we saw the challenge. And the challenge, we think, And we sort of, and obviously, and I think this is becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger challenge, especially with automation disrupting jobs, is all of these people that are left behind. And we wanted to see how can we develop technology that supports systems that help these people to be gainfully employed, to develop in their careers. So we look a lot, we work a lot with youth, long-term unemployed, immigrants, veterans, and we develop technologies that really help those people to advance and help the systems that work with those people to advance. It was a bit of a crazy move 8 years ago to fire, over a few years, Microsoft and all those guys, but we're really happy we did it. And I think the more time goes on, the more the focus and the energy. I think that this issue of the future of work is the next climate change issue for the world. And I think governments around the world and politicians around the world and the public around the world are really tuned into how do we address these issues. So you've heard some of these statistics, and they vary from organization to organization, and I think that was covered today, so I won't get into them. One of the things, though, that I would highlight is that the average worker in Canada has 15 to 20 jobs. So the idea that their company is going to help develop their skills is not valid. The idea that we trust all the training development, especially small businesses, they don't train their people. So how do you have a productive, efficient workforce that's continuously learning? We all think that you need to do it. There's nobody in this room that would say, no, we don't believe in continuous learning, but there's no technology to support that. It's almost like the healthcare records around the world are paper-based, and a lot of countries, of course, are going towards an electronic medical record. That record follows you, and it has your x-rays, it has your blood work, it has your doctor's records, it has your prescriptions. That only makes sense. We want to do the same thing for skills development, because if we're saying it's a lifelong learning and there's no system to track it, then it's very hard to actually preach, to deliver on the promises of lifelong learning. So in Canada, this is just a Canadian context, RBC, Canada's largest bank, says 25% of Canadian jobs are going to be heavily disrupted by technology in the coming decade, and 50% will require completely new skills. And I think that's the challenge that we're facing, but that's in many ways a challenge that's similar to many people, not everybody, but many people in this room. So when you look at who's being affected, the post-secondary systems, and I see a lot of energy on post-secondary education. How do we get them to be relevant? How do we get them to plug to what industry needs? And to be honest, we kind of went around them. And a lot of our solutions, we say, yes, they still have a value. It's very, very hard to get post-secondary to change, and it takes time. And so we've developed complementary systems with industry, where industry says, we want these skills, and how do we get them? And you can use technology today to have industry-validated credentials, not a credential that comes from a college or from a university. Those are still going to happen. They're still there. We're not trying to change that, obviously. But it's much faster to go and look at the skills that sit on top of that. Or for the people that don't go to university and the people that don't go to colleges, how do you get those skills? So so that's where we're involved in alternative ways of getting credentials outside of post-secondary. Globally, 40% of employers are saying they're having problems finding applicants, which I think that was covered today. A lot of the skills that they're looking for, there's not enough people that have them. 19% say it's lack of hard skills, like they don't know how to weld, they don't know how to use computers or carpentry or whatever. But 11% is soft skills. That's an easy target. Soft skills is something you can train outside of the post-secondary system. If you're working in this hotel, you need to have good, which they do, by the way, excellent customer service, excellent people skills, excellent time management, and so on. Those are skills that are independent of any kind of post-secondary education, and they will help with 11% of the gap of jobs that employers can't find. Soft skills are obviously in greater demand. This is a Manpower study from 2016, 2017. They're saying until 2021, active listening, speaking, critical thinking, are very much in demand, and those are things that you can address outside of post-secondary. In fact, you have to address them outside post-secondary. They don't teach those things in a lot of cases. So workforce is polarizing, and that was covered today. Automation is responsible for 80% of the job losses. Trade issues are only responsible for 20%. So I won't get into politics, but obviously there's a protectionist sort of movement going on now in various places. There's issues with immigration, and there's issues with all kinds of social because people I think are looking for easy answers, but the truth is that automation is responsible for most of the job losses, and if we don't develop skills to deal with that in our workforce, especially, and I actually had the same point as the OECD gentleman, middle skills are disappearing. Middle skilled jobs are disappearing, so they're creating competition in the lower skilled areas. So now the lower skilled jobs are demanding more soft skills, more capabilities, and that's creating a real problem for the people that traditionally were both in middle skills and low skills, and it's creating a lot of anxiety around the world. So high skilled jobs are growing, but not everyone's going to become an engineer or a doctor. We all know that. So again, we're talking about the disappearance of middle skilled jobs and how that's affecting the lower skilled area. And I would say, by the way, I've been reading a lot of research that says pathologists and accountants are next in terms of automation. You don't need, a lot of people would say, I'd rather have a computer analyze my x-ray than a doctor, and at some point that'll happen. So it's not just middle skill, some high skill jobs are going to be disrupted as well. So in the World Economic Forum, I think McKinsey said that, you know, there's going to be obviously disruption. I won't cover that. Back to 2012, they were saying, McKinsey was saying, they're one of our clients for their generation initiative around the world. Is education to employment, only 50% of youth surveyed believed that their post-secondary education actually helped them to get a job. And that goes back again to the soft skills gap. So that's really a frightening number, that you go to post-secondary school and you say that half the people that graduate say that their education isn't helping them to get a job. Thomas Friedman, I think, has a book, Thank You for Being Late, a big fan of his. He's a New York Times columnist. He says basically in his research, you can be a lifelong employee, but only if you're a lifelong learner. And that's true. The idea that you're going to be set, you know, even a generation ago, that you're going to be set once you have your credential, you're set, is not true anymore. His estimation or his research says that every 4 years means a complete reskilling. That's how you stay relevant. He thinks it's as much as every 4 years you have to have significantly new skills in order to be competitive. So I keep this up there because I think human knowledge is doubling every 18 months. When I started giving some of this speech a few years ago, it was 18. I think now we're down to 12. It's going to 12 hours within a decade, I believe. So that pace of change is staggering. And I wanted to just use a quick case study on US manufacturing. And the reason I'm using it is to show how it's not about job availability. It's about skills and what's happened. So the US manufacturing industry shed about a third of their jobs, 4 million jobs in the last decade. I think the decade of the, maybe about 5 years ago, the decade before that. So they shed that many jobs. But today, or back in 2012, 67% of manufacturing executives said that they have a moderate to severe shortage of available workers. So when you think about that, if you just gave up 4 million jobs and you fired all those people over a decade, you think you'd have plenty of labor. But that just speaks to the new skills that are in demand, even in manufacturing. It's not the jobs even a decade ago. If you have those skills and you worked in a factory then, you're still not employable. I always say that if this business didn't work, I did a mechanical engineering degree, and if a blue job didn't work, I'd be, within 4 or 5 years, whatever I know would be outdated, and I would be unemployed right now. So it does change that fast. So some OECD data, and again, getting back to the idea that the system should not be just about unemployed people, it should be about career development, because that's really what I think we have an obligation to own and help and support the entire career development of people. If you're just getting them a job, they'll be out of a job soon enough when the technology changes or when things change. You have to help them keep moving. So this is a data that talks about OECD data. I think Canada had 33% of people in their jobs were underqualified to do their jobs. The OECD average is about 20%. You can see some other countries. So those are people that don't have enough skills to do their current jobs. These are people that have too many skills to do their current jobs. They're overqualified. Canada has 35%. And again, the OECD average is around 20. So in Canada, 68% of our workforce is either underqualified or overqualified for their current jobs. An OECD average is 40%. Those are staggering numbers, and that's, again, the challenge that we have to help people to evolve, because you cannot just get, your relevance. This is a saying that I've started using, but you know, your relevance now, it used to be a destination. It used to be, I'm going to be relevant once I have my piece of paper from engineering school or from college or from whatever. Now that's just your, bless you. Now that's just your ticket. Now that's just how you get in the game. Being relevant is no longer a destination. It's a journey. So if we adapt that mindset that relevance is now a journey, not a destination, then you can, and I'm sure a lot of people here are already doing that, then you can talk about how technology can support it. So how should a modern workforce respond to these challenges? Well, first of all, there needs to be a focus on vocational training in colleges, because a lot of jobs are there that people are looking for, and I know in a lot of developing countries, or some of the developing countries that we've been to, there's a big focus on that. Because they're bringing in, I mean, the Chinese infrastructure investment that's happening now in various countries is they're bringing in labor from China. But if we could get more plumbers and and electricians and welders in those countries, that would create a lot of employment. So it's continuing upskilling for life, on demand, and it's not just upskilling, you know, I'll go back and do a program. People want the upskilling even on the job. And some of the technology that we've developed, and I'll show you an example of that, is how do you use the technology right there on the job to give you the information that you need as you're doing the job. Redefining relevance, which we just talked about. Help workers to be able to keep their credentials and validate them and share them. So again, this is the electronic medical record idea, that every worker has their records after they graduate from any post-secondary or just high school, wherever they stop formal education. They should be able to keep credentials and track them and share them with employers, and we wanted to create that ecosystem, because otherwise we're saying it's important, but it's not tracked. There's nobody following it. You can't measure it. You can't share it. You don't know if the credentials are valid. So how do you do that as a system? Keep your credentials, validate them, and share them with employers. And then micro-skilling, again, skills on demand to support workers that they can take their skills anywhere. So this is when we talk about, this is actually in the construction industry, these would be boxes of certifications that people need for health and safety. So I want to introduce a concept too in Canada, and I think in a lot of other countries, you know, people have to have various regulatory requirements. Those are actually things that either help people get jobs or hinder people from getting jobs. They're either a help or a barrier. So we have a vision or a view in Canada, and we've worked with several provinces on this, that those regulatory requirements, like in order to serve food safely, you have to learn how to handle food. You know, we have very good food here and it's very safe, but people have to be trained in that. Those are skills that actually help people get jobs, or they would be a way to get a job with limited experience. If you could prove you know how to handle food, maybe you could get around that whole cycle of I don't have experience, I can't get a job. Well, maybe you can actually intervene and give people those kinds of skills that make them employer ready right away. So our technology role is basically, you know, we start with access to technology, obviously, and it has to be mobile, and we do a lot of things mobily. You have to be able to get on-demand upskilling, so get the skills that you need as you're working or as you're about to get a job, not sort of in very small chunks. Virtual job aids that you can take with you on the job, and then credential management for life, so you track all of your credentials through the workforce. So I'm just going to time check here. So basically, there are three things that we do here. There are three things that we do in our solution. And one is regulatory-driven credentials, which I just mentioned. External workforce development portal. So this is basically helping the system, you know, the PESs, with virtual career services, automation, so that, you know, you can channel people into various things. A lot of people have social issues, or, you know, they might be single parents. They might have an inability to come into an office. So why can't we deliver services virtually? And we've developed a lot of this kind of underpinning to help the system do that. And then the government needs data. And I mean, I know Jean-Francois, Canada does a really good job of labor market information, but you need data. You need to see where the skills gaps are. You need to see what people are learning. You need to see where the demand is. So those are the three areas that we have developed into our technology over the last 10 years. So our key platform elements, so this is our we call it a learning record store, where the workforce, we're talking tens of thousands. We just have a contract now, we just signed actually yesterday with Ontario for 2 million workers to track their learning in health and safety credentials throughout their careers. And so we keep that here in the store, and you have to have, the ability to track each worker individually. Then you have to have mobile learning, communities of practice, an intake process that's intelligent to guide people to where they need to go so they're not lined up, which we've seen, especially in our LA project. People are lined up from 7 o'clock in the morning just to find out something they could have found out online. So we can deliver that stuff online, offline learning, and so on. So I'll just, I really would like to show it to you rather than talk about it. But again, I want to stress that one thing that what we've been building, which is very audacious and difficult, and it's early. I mean, we've only got a couple of installations. I don't want to pretend that this is, in use in 200 countries or anything. But what we've been working on is how do you build an ecosystem where everybody plugs in to, so you have post-secondary data that goes in, you have employer data, being able to get data from employees. Obviously, the workers are the key. Union and industry groups, training providers, so we organize a marketplace of all the training that's available in a province, or like stand-up training that's approved, and then regulators actually plug into it as well. So what we've really built is an ecosystem for all of those groups to come together and basically manage skills at a jurisdictional level. Not at a business level, not at a university level, at the entire jurisdictional level. Like I mentioned, the largest implementation will be 2 million workers in Ontario. So these are the programs that we've done in Canada, which I want to just share with you a little bit. This is Atlantic Canada over here, and we'll talk a little bit. We have all 4 Atlantic provinces. They're small. Atlantic provinces, Newfoundland is about 500,000 people. Nova Scotia is about 1 million people, very small provinces. Ontario is a large province, about, I think they're the 11th largest economy in the world, and that's just with 2 million workers. So those are the implementations. I'll just take you through an example. So this is one we did 6 years ago in the province of Newfoundland called SmartForce NL. We launched it in 2011. We reached our targets, and I'll talk about 8 months into a 2-year schedule. So the workforce there is about 200,000 people. We have 10% of the workforce online. Learning online today, which we did within a couple of years. They've done 35,000 courses on everything from how to use Excel to communications. All of these online programs are available, and there are ways to upskill people. 70% of the online courses get completed. The industry average is less than 10%. So these are voluntary courses. You don't have to do them. No one's making you do them. So we have 70% course completion. We have 1,700 businesses or municipalities that have signed on. So this was a very, very successful project. We did this, as I mentioned, in 2011, but we made some mistakes. Well, not mistakes, I guess we were learning. First of all, we measured the skills outcomes. So yes, we have improved computer skills. We have improved leadership skills. We have improved some soft skills. But really, we should be looking at employability outcomes, not skills outcomes. At the end of the day, if you believe that giving people these skills will help them get a job, we should be measuring that. So we didn't do that, and we're doing that now in the second round. And the program wasn't built into the employability system, so you really have to build it in so that it's integrated. It's not, a lot of jurisdictions have this idea that, oh, technology's over here. That's your technology solution. You come into our offices, and we'll talk to you about our office stuff, and we'll deal with you there. You can talk to people. But really, you should have a fully integrated approach. And I really liked the messages that we heard this morning, which said that we have it digital first, or digital by design. So you develop a program digitally first, and then you look at the people who will not be able to take advantage of the digital solution. That's the way to design it, not the other way around, where we set up all of these queues and people-driven processes, and then we say, oh, let's add digital over here, and it just lives on its own. That's what we did in Newfoundland. It lived on its own, and that was something that we learned we should fix. So in terms of the vision, the version 2.0, which we're now implementing in the same province, is you have a worker passport. So every worker tracks their credentials for life. We think that that's a critical part of responding to the pace of change. So a worker on their phone, they even have a QR code, like a barcode that you can scan on the job to get on a job site. So every worker has their worker passport. Then they have the ability through the worker passport to get skills on demand as they need them. Then they have the ability to get what we call augmented experience, so we can track competencies that they learn on the job. When we're talking about youth programs, as Jean-Francois said, when we send these kids out to get experience on the job, we should be able to track what competencies they've learned. So we have this ability to support them and track what they've done. Then we look at service delivery optimization. So how is this making the system more efficient? How do we make the system more efficient? And again, the goal is to improve employment outcomes and worker productivity outcomes. So, so basically, the conundrum, of course, is you need experience to get a job, but you need a job to get experience. I'm guessing that's as global as, I don't know what, as sunshine. So some of the things that we're now, as part of this new project that we're looking at, we haven't done this yet, but with the Canada Job Bank, which is a fantastic job bank, we link those jobs with real-time upskilling. So for example, if a restaurant owner is looking for someone, what do they usually do? I'm looking for 2 years experience. I'm looking to have someone come into my kitchen, but they need to have 2 years experience or 1 year experience. What if they could say, and the system goes to those employers and says, look, will you accept someone straight from high school that has a program on workplace productivity? They know how, they've done a training on how to deal with people, how to deal with customers, they've done food safety training. They have these things. So our hope is that you're going to get either you have 2 years experience or you've done this 10-hour online program. And when you've done this 10-hour online program, we can accept you and give you an interview. That's what our hope is, and that's what we're going to test out now. So that's the workplace productivity. Any regulatory in Canada and lots of countries, you need to have certain training to be able to work on a high roof. So what if you had that? Even if just as a laborer, you can't get that job because you don't have the right safety credentials. So they should be available again. As you're applying for a job, you can go in and get that training so that you can say to the employer, I have those things. And then the job seeker would demonstrate that they've done it, and the employers would validate on the job the skills. So I won't get into this here. I mean, that's the full system of what we're doing in the new version of Skills Pass, which is much more comprehensive and much more integrated into the PES. This is what a dashboard would look like for a PES. So they could look at employers and what they've done. They could look at all the training. They could look at gaps and so on. But again, I'd rather show that to you. I won't. And on-the-job competency development, I think, is the new frontier, because people can learn a lot of skills on the job. How do you bring value to that? How do you make that a credential that means something? So we do a lot of tracking on that, and we have graduates now that will go out with phones, and they'll have all the competencies that they need to be able to demonstrate, sort of like an apprenticeship program. And once you can do that on your phone, you can get your boss to actually sign your phone, and you now have a credential that's based on validation by your boss. That's another way to get around sort of the no experience issue. So this is where we've been active around the world. We're just starting to work actually in this region here in Morocco. We're working with a group called EFE, Education for Employment, that's in the Middle East. We've done some work in Kenya, a lot of work in Chile and Peru as well. So this is the kind of work that we've been working on. I did want to just highlight one program because I think it's relevant. The Dream Builder program is really neat because it's really helping a lot of women primarily in Latin America, South America, to start their own businesses. And I think that that's another powerful part of empowering. It was funded by a mining company, very large program. I think right now there's 29,000 women. That's launched a few years ago. It's all online. At the end of this program, they actually end up with a business plan. So they go through the program, women entrepreneurs, and they will end up with a business plan. And the nice thing about this is that it needs to be customized, but the company that funded it, mining company, is making that available for free to anybody that wants it. So if there's anybody that's got an interest in women's entrepreneurship, this program was very, very rich e-learning content, very successful. 50 partners now in 20 countries, really, really powerful, helped a lot of women start their own businesses. That's the EFE thing, I won't talk about that. So let me just get into the demo if I may, if this works. Okay, so first thing I wanted to show you is what we did for Los Angeles. So the Los Angeles system, LA County is the largest county in the United States. And this is a program for the second largest city there, Long Beach, in LA County. So basically you would register, and one of the things that you can do right off the bat to help with inflow and to help with efficiency is you can ask people to, give you some basic information, so they can go in and tell you their their date of birth. If they're born in a certain period of time, they might be eligible for youth. You can ask them about any disabilities they have. You can ask them their level of computer literacy, so if they're frequent computer users and so on. This system then allows you to register, and before you even come into the system, before you visit an actual center, we know something about you. We know where we're going to direct you, so we can help you better. So the first thing is, and this is very common in the U.S., it's actually a regulatory requirement, is that you need to do a course on what the system can do for you. Because I find a lot of places in the world, people don't know what the PES centers can do for you. They don't really understand how they can be helped, the programs that are available. So the first thing that they do before you actually come into the center is that you get a full education on what's available to you. And I'll just actually show you a quick example of the course. So this would show you, and you don't talk to anybody until you finish this course. So there's audio here, which you probably can't hear. So basically these are some of the things that you can do in the center. And let me just see. Okay, it's on. Yeah. So basically you would go in and you would do this, and before you see anybody, you've gotten training. So we don't waste time. People lined up, learning what the programs are. They've actually done a course as part of getting to see someone. So then we go back to here. Then the next thing we have is shortcut for a job. So basically there is programs that we've done where this was done with industry in Los Angeles. So we work with industry to basically say, what is it that you're looking for that you're not getting from post-secondary? And there's hotels and restaurants and construction sites and so on that you would use. So here you would get right in, and the workplace productivity, I think, is 13 courses that we built, and this is a time management issue, which is a big area of concern of. I'll just show you. So basically, this is a course on how do you prioritize your, and there's courses on dealing with difficult customers, communications, and so on. One of the neat things that we did, and I would highly recommend this, is that we got people in the business community to be part of this, part of the e-learning. So there's videos there from local employers telling you why they don't want to hire you when you misspell their name, or why time management is so important. And then there's also examples of students that were vulnerable youth that couldn't get jobs, and talking about what was it that they learned that actually helped them make the jump. So by getting the business community involved, you can have a much better course experience. So that's that. And then I'll just show you one more thing. So then you have the ability to search job board. So this is a really neat thing. So basically, this is the Canada Job Bank here. We'll just go into it. Actually, I think I already got it open here. So this is a browser extension that we have, so that when you're on the Canada Job Bank, you can find a job that you want, so data warehouse analyst, and then what you can do here is you can launch this extension. I just click this little thing here in the corner, if you can see in the left corner. And what that does is that actually helps candidates that are looking for jobs. It helps them to track their jobs throughout their career. So this is what actually happens. These are the jobs that I'm actually tracking. Some of them from the Canada Job Board, but one of them here from Indeed. I can even go to PepsiCo, and I just went to PepsiCo and I went to Egypt and said, what are they hiring? So they have one job here in purchasing and procurement, and I can actually go into that job and use this tool, and you can see it here. It'll actually fill it all out. It fills out the job that I'm doing, and it helps me to track it, and helps the government to see what you're applying for. So I put in, this is with Pepsi, and it actually scrapes the page, as we would say, and then I can put that I applied, and I can save the opportunity. When I save the opportunity with Pepsi, and I go back to, it's a little bit slow here with the internet, but I can go back here, and then if I go back, you'll see that it'll actually show the Pepsi job is now one of my, there it is right there, where's Pepsi? Right here, Pepsi. You can see it right here. So I just added that job. I can go into the job. I can change it to an interview stage. It actually helps me to track that. I can also go in as a job seeker, and I can go in and I can actually do an email builder. This is one of the coolest things. So I can say I want to send an email to this guy, Emad RIZKALLA, who is a cold email. I don't know him. And I'd like to get his help on industry advice, interview preparation, or so on. And it'll actually create a custom email that I can send to help me in my job search. So it's really about helping the job seeker manage their job search as a job. I mean, there's a great course that Manpower did. Getting a job is a job. So we try to help them treat it like a job. This tool will allow you on any website to go in and grab the information of the job you're applying for from the Canada Job Bank, from Indeed, from Pepsi, and track it so it helps the person organize themselves in their job. So that, I think that there's one more thing I would show you from the LA experience, and that is my application kit. So here's one of the biggest areas I think that I see that, in a very humble opinion, that we see a mistake, and I'm going to call it a mistake because we would all agree. Anybody here done a communication course, you know, public speaking, or anybody here ever done one of those in university or outside? Did they take a video of you and show you what you did? So how do we help people prepare for interviews? We don't take a video of them. We sit down, we bring them, a lot of places I see, they sit here in the audience, and a guy like me would say to them, this is what you need to do for your interview, and this is how you do it, and this is how you whatever. But anybody here who's actually done a communication course that helped them actually had a video recorded of themselves. And so what we do is we actually ask them questions. So this is a job seeker. This is a guy actually from our work, not a real job seeker. And you ask them questions. You know, what was your favorite thing as your last job? Where do you want to be in 5 years? These are things they're going to get. They record them, and they share them with their PES job counselor. And so as he's speaking here, and you can see there's messages here telling him, you can't read them, but don't talk about snacks. There's another point where he looks at his phone. Don't look at your phone. So this is a much more compelling way, one-on-one, and you can centralize that service in terms of efficiency. It's not 15 different centers in a country or a province. It could be a group of people that are experts in interview skills that are there getting these videos and then annotating them. Great job reflecting the questions, you know, and then tells them where they made a mistake in 15 seconds, 35 seconds, and so on. So that's again, automating, using technology to your advantage to help people really in their need. So that was it for that. I will show you, oh, sorry, I got to shut him down because he's going to keep going. Okay, that's enough for him. So basically, feedback and review. Okay, so we'll go back. Now, I wanted to show you, I think that's it for that. Now, in the transition between, I'm going to have one more thing here. In the transition, I have to just relaunch. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so basically, I wanted to show you what a job market looks like. So we've created a job market for skills that this is regulatory related skills, but this is, think of it as hotels.com or Expedia or Travelocity. So basically these are all the training courses that you can do as a job seeker. These are things that if you do them, you can get on a job site. So you have fall protection, which is working at heights. You can actually get a job that you can't otherwise get without it. Whether you have education or post-secondary or not, if you're working on a roof in Canada, you need this particular course. So basically, it's just like hotels.com. You can pick the course, the region, so I want to do it in this city. You know, you can pick the date, I want to do that, just like booking a hotel room. And this is integrated with 200 training providers. It gives you the price. You can say that you're going to attend. And when you attend, you can, so this gentleman here has an account, Donal. Just going to make sure, is it Donal, was last name too, Tom, or no? No, okay, Donal. So, sorry, I can't read here. Donal at, so basically he's going he's going to actually just register for this course, and I'll show you how neat it is that this will create a class list for every one of the 200 training providers. Okay, so basically this is his unique identifier. So this is this gentleman's, this worker's information. He saves it and continues. He has a learn. Okay, and he can confirm his reservation. Oh, you can actually ask him why he's taking the training. So he might say, "I'm a student." So he's in, and then basically you can see his learning profile. So this is all of the training that he's doing. It will show him what he's registered for, and these are, again, hundreds of training providers. This could be government training as well, government classroom training, so you can track it. And at the end of the day, he will also get the ability to look at his training records and print his card, so this is what he has already done. It'll remind him if something is expiring. He can look at his certificate, he can email it to an employer, and this is one of the neat things. The employers in this province are on the system, so there's 2,000 employers. He can actually add, when he adds Bell Canada can now see the certifications that he has. If that's his employer, they can actually see what he's done, and he can remove the employers. These are all the people that he approves to see his information. So again, when I mentioned earlier it's an ecosystem, you know, that's what I was talking about, that the full system. So I think I got one more thing. When we talked about on the job, so this is the instructor module. Okay, so the instructor module basically is, okay, I hope this works. Oh. Okay. No, it's not going to work. Sorry, just make sure, because we had it all set up. But what I was going to show you, and maybe I won't bother with this one, is the instructor actually in the training school will get a list of all the students, and they'll approve them. And the minute that they approve them, they go right into the record, into the learning history of the individual. So that's what I was going to show you. So there's one last thing. I just want to show you the on-the-job thing, and I think I still have... Yeah, okay, I've got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes? Okay, thank you. So the last thing I'll show you is on-the-job tracking. So this is... Yeah, so basically you can help people as well. So if you're a welder in one province, sometimes what you need in another province, you can build career paths to help people figure out, okay, I'm a welder right now in Newfoundland, but I want to be a welder in Manitoba. So right now I have 25% of the requirements to be a MIG welder. I can also say what requirements do I need to be a nuclear welder. So we can help young people to get a clear vision of what are the qualifications, like what are the training that they need. What is it, the training that they need? You have to have this certificate, that certificate. You have to do medical tests. You have to do an alcohol and drug test. It allows them to register for it. So we're making it easy for people to track what training they need. So if he switches, I want to work now in a different province, Manitoba, his requirements just changed from 25%. He's got a little bit more of what he needs for Manitoba in this case. And then he can launch online courses. If there's an online course, he can register for things. And at the end of the day then, we also track on-the-job skills. So in the on-the-job skills, technical competencies, so I just wanted to show you this because I think it's very powerful. We can send people out now when they get a job, a work term, a practice period. First of all, we can send them out with information on what it is that they need to be able to do the job well. So these are all competencies that you need to be able to do to be a mechanical technician. If there's any information that you need to remember, you can provide it to them right there on the job. This can come from a college, this can come from a program that's developed separately from a college. So they need to be able to dismantle a pump, and this actually shows them all of the steps that they have in order to, so you can take tools out and you know, start showing that you know how to do the steps in sequence, and you go step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on. So that's very important because you can embed training, micro-training into it. So finally, just to conclude, they can actually say, okay, I know how to dismantle a reciprocating pump, and they can say, I'm ready to be evaluated by my boss, I know how to inspect clearances, I know how to inspect this. These are all the competencies that you need. Then you can request an evaluation from your boss. In a lot of cases then, the student, the worker, will have their phone. They will have these things on the phone, obviously, and then they can request an evaluation now. So now they give the phone to their boss. This is what their boss sees on their phone. So then they can rate them satisfactory. I think they know how to dismantle reciprocating. I don't think they know how to inspect clearances. So I'm going to say that I'm going to assign them training. I want them to have more training or more whatever, needs improvements, satisfactory. Then they can rate their skills for problem solving. So basically help track all of the things that are needed and so on. And then at the end of the day, the boss will actually go in, add their name and information. So Emad, I won't do it, Emad, put in the email address, and actually sign the phone of the student, submit approval. And then the government agency, the PES, will actually get a record of all the competencies that have been validated by their boss. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show you. Thank you very much.